Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to 5 Midfield, a little section that we do on 2 up top. Gav Mack up the top there, alongside Stephen Buck, and then down there in behind, in the number 10 role, is Alex Osborn. But that's how we're going to do it.
At least you got the number 10 role there, Alex. At one point, I thought he was going to apply to you as a sweeper.
Well, yeah, but I thought this is the 5 midfield, so we need two more players.
We do.
Yeah, we do. So it's like a back five, really, isn't it? More than 5 midfield. Anyway.
Anyway.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the show. If you don't know already, this is what we normally do, our top fives. This is episode number 13. So unlucky for some, but lucky for all of us. And you can see all our social media links all going on the bottom of the screen. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at 2 Up Top Football, or follow the hashtag TUTF. Alternatively, just put 2 Up Top into Google and we come up first. How wonderful is that? Right, I'm going to start us off. Right, so top 5 managers in the Premier League. Number 5, David Moyes.
Oh, that's controversial.
Yes. David Moyes has done a lot. And we look at what he's done recently and we think, oh, he's a rubbish manager. But you got to think, what are Everton? And what did he do with Everton? He had no money. He wasn't able to use the money of like Mashiri and Usmanov and things like that. And I think with a little bit more financial clout, he would be achieving. He got a top 4 finish in the year, in the 04-05 season. No one expected that. Top half finishes throughout his time when he was at Everton as well, apart from his first season. But Everton overachieved, you could argue. And I feel that is at the hands of David Moyes. And if he had a little bit of money, it wouldn't be an overachievement. It would actually be challenging a lot more. And I think that's why we ask the question so much. What are Everton? Because we don't know what they're meant to be. Are they meant to be challenging? Are they meant to be languishing in mid-table? Are they meant to be staving off relegation like how they used to in the 90s? You know, so I think David Moyes needs a little bit of respect on his name, and we don't have to worry about. And also another thing as well, when he went to Sociedad for that year, Sociedad were in disarray. Sociedad had just gone down this week as well. They're in the last week and a half. They've been relegated now from La Liga. Man United, big task. And whoever went into Manchester United next was going to be a struggle. So David Moyes, he deserves some respect. He's my number 5. Number 4, 100% record with Angleterre, Big Sam. The only manager in England history to have 100% record at management level for the Angleterre national side. And another thing, it's very similar to the David Moyes thing. What are you looking at, Alex, man?
Carry on.
We'll come to your list in a bit, mate. Another thing with Big Sam is financial backing again, because he went into a Bolton side who was struggling in Division 1, as it was called then. He got them promoted and turned Bolton into an established side. They had some mad names playing for him. They had JJ Okocha, Fernando Hierro, Ivan Campo, all that sort of stuff. They're all washed up, but they still went there. And imagine if they were a bit younger, what he could have achieved with them. And at one point, I think it was the 05-06 season or 06-07 season. I have to double check that. I can't remember. But they were third at Christmas. And if he had a little bit more money, he went to the board and said, can I have a few quid? Because I think we can challenge for the Champions League. And the owners said, we don't want to challenge for the Champions League. That's way above our pay grade. If Sam Allardyce was called Samasi Allardycinho, people would be loving him. But because he's English, I reckon that's why they kick off at him. Sam Allardyce deserves a lot more respect for what he's done at club level. You know, he's taken
a lot as well. A lot with the whole long board thing, long ball and all those kind of sort of boring tactics. But actually, if you look at what he actually delivered over at West Ham, you look at some of the football that he delivered over at Bolton, and certainly some of the football at Newcastle when he went there, and it wasn't just long ball. He got the best out of the squad that he had available.
If I'm right, he's never been relegated either.
I don't think he has, no. Far from it. I think he's saved more clubs from relegation.
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
he's taken a club down ever. I think he's always gone there, saved them, albeit by the skin of their teeth sometime, and then tried to get them going again.
Exactly that. Number 3, Arsene Wenger. Oh, where is he? There he is. Arsene Wenger came over to England. No one know who he was. Anyone who says that they do know who he was is a liar, in my opinion. Revolutionised the game, brought a load of players over, a load of French players over. He then changed the diet, changed the mentality of football. Won a title, the first foreign manager to win a Premier League, win a top flight title in England. He is a legend. Simple as that. The first 10 years of his tenure at Arsenal were phenomenal. The following 10 years, everyone who knows me knows I was a Wenger out guy, but it doesn't take away everything that he did in the first 10 to 12 years at Arsenal. The guy, as I said, he revolutionised football. Number 2, Jamu. Jose Mourinho is my number 2. Now, we don't want to talk about fraudulent things here, Stephen Buck.
He's a fraud.
Look. I'll tell you what's with Jean Martinez. Jose Mourinho came to England having just won a major European trophy with a very average Porto side. He's won the treble with Inter Milan. He's won the Champions League with everyone who's been out apart from United and Chelsea. But he's been brilliant. And people go, oh, he's a negative manager, this, that, and the other. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all, because I've watched Jose Mourinho's sides slap teams up 5, 6, 7-0. Do you know what I mean? So, I love Mourinho. I think he's brilliant.
I think he's as a European manager. Yes, we're talking just about the best in the Premier League of all time. And for me, okay, he's won a title with Chelsea.
Only conceded 15 goals, I believe, that season as well. 17 goals.
I'll give him that. But
I think you'll find he's won 3.
Anything without a blank checkbook to go and sign whoever he wanted to sign, no. And that was proven when he went to United. He still got money to spend. Did he deliver a title? No. He's gone to Spurs. He's had 8 months now.
He didn't deliver a title.
What's he done? Nothing. He's made them worse.
He didn't deliver a title when he was with Man United. But where were Man United then? Man United were nobody. And he's got trophies with them. So the guy's a beast, mate.
You're letting what's happening at Spurs at the moment cloud your judgment here, Bucky.
No, he's not in
Alex,
the top 5. No, wait.
Alex, tell him again.
I mean, I don't understand how a manager who's won the Premier League 3 times, one of them being the best sides of all time in the Premier League, right, be a fraud.
No.
Just like
he's bought his way to a title. That's not coaching.
Let's judge him on his choice of managers.
Yeah, we will in a bit. But I'm just saying, like, that Chelsea side was star-studded, but they also had players like Damien Duff. Damien Duff wasn't world class.
No, but
number 1,
still brought in as a solution. He's not taken any player apart from, I'd say, probably Frank Lampard. He didn't take any player and make them better than what they should have been. He bought solutions.
Terry, Check.
Drogba was already a good player.
Malak
was already a top goalkeeper.
Duff.
No one. It was Ren.
Joe Cole. Yeah. He didn't make any player better, did he?
He was already a good goalkeeper. Already a good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Keep throwing the names out. Anyway, number 1.
Oh, dearie me.
Number 1, it can't be anyone else. Saf.
Yeah.
Sir Alex Ferguson, number 1. There is no better manager ever in the Premier League. It doesn't need any more superlatives being said. He's done everything, and what I love about Sir Alex Ferguson. He didn't just win it once. He's won the Premier League 13 times. And it's not just won it 13 times. The amount of times he's rebuilt that team. He won it with kids. He won it with experience. He won it with Brits. He won it with foreign players. He won it with a 4-4-2. He won it with a 4-2-3-1. He's won it with a 4-3-3 pretty much. He's changed. He is a manager who has constantly evolved with the Premier League and saw what's happening and gone ahead of the game. That last title that Man United won in 2012-13, that was the worst Man United side I've ever seen. Yep. And he still won a title because that's the manager. It's not the player who did. That's the manager. He's the best manager ever to be in the Premier League, hands down, and best there ever will. And Arsenal could have had him. Arsenal could have had him in '86. He went to Man United because they wanted him there and then. Arsenal wanted to wait till the end of the season, and he was like, "No, I'll go to Man United." And he almost got sacked. And then you can imagine what would have happened with his career then. But now he is GOAT. Right, Alex, coming to you, mate. Who's your number 5?
Number 5, Jurgen Klopp.
Kloppy.
Good old Cloppity Jurgen Klopp. Everyone's second favourite manager, I'd imagine, after their own, because of the charismatic nature that he comes across in press conferences. But let's not disguise the fact that this guy has transformed a club completely. They've done a 180, and they're now a powerhouse again in English football. How long will they be a powerhouse for? Obviously, that remains to be seen. But these last it's a historic last 2 seasons, basically. Considering where Liverpool were before. You were trying to talk about David Moyes transforming Everton. This is like times 10 and on steroids. Like they're injecting it into their veins. All those cliches, whatever you want to call it. Jurgen Klopp, along with obviously some sound management from those like Michael Edwards, the director of football, but as a team, especially the manager, they have just transformed Liverpool. They play incredible. They play intelligent football, high gegenpress. They've bought well. They've bought the best players from teams below them, and they've made them better since coming into the team. He's bought through youth academy players, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then players that are coming through now, Curtis Jones, Nico Williams. You know, what's more to say? And if they carry on this trajectory for the next couple of years, he will move up that list. The only reason why he's number 5 for me is because he's been managing 5 years compared to some of the others here in my list. But yeah, Jurgen Klopp's number 5 for me.
Yeah, and Jurgen Klopp would be in my top 5 and probably in the first 2 or 3 in a few years' time. But it's the longevity thing for me.
I agree.
The level of success in that time, hence why it's not in there. So I don't want Liverpool fans to start coming at me going, you don't like Jurgen Klopp, I don't know out. No, that's the reason why I've gone with my route and things like that. So no, I'll see where you're coming from as well, Alex.
He's definitely everyone's favourite manager other than their own, though.
He's my favourite person.
You love his honesty and the way he comes across is just brilliant. You can see why players want to play for him.
All day. Who's your number 4, Alex?
Number 4 is Arsene Wenger. Now, is definitely, as you alluded to, his managerial career, you can split it in halves, can't you? First part of his career, his second part of his career. His first part of his career, he's probably number 2, without doubt.
Yes.
As Gav said, revolutionised the game. He transformed Arsenal from a boozy culture to a professional outfit, which then challenged Manchester United. And I've watched programmes, I've mentioned this before, Gary Neville has a programme on Sky called Soccer Box where he talks to various players about their careers, goals they scored, games they played in, etc. And he says the reason why they won titles in the 90s and the early 2000s was because they were just a professional club. They didn't go out drinking, they treated their diet properly, they did recovery, recuperation, rest, correct, trained properly. And that's why they were able to carry on, the whole Man United coming in the last 10, 15 minutes of every game if they weren't winning. That wasn't a coincidence that they were better than everybody else because they were just fitter than everyone else. But when Arsene Wenger came in, he changed that culture at Arsenal, and then Arsenal were then brought up to that level with Manchester United, and along with the players that they had already, and then some of the shrewd recruitment he made, they won titles. They challenged Manchester United. They were obviously on seasons they were better than them, and Alex Ferguson obviously responded accordingly. And then obviously that culminated in the Invincibles season in 2003-2004, where they didn't lose a single game. The reason why he's only at number 4.
Yes, they drew games that year, because that's another thing people like to complain about. Arsenal drew all these games. Arsenal had the title wrapped up.
Yeah, and
wrapped up.
as you can see from this season, when Liverpool had the title wrapped up, look what happened when the very next game they played against Man City. They got thumped 4-0.
And they look shaky, and they look shaky in the Brighton game as well. So
yeah,
and they look shaky in the Villa game because they'd already won the title. It don't matter to them anymore.
And football was different in those days. Football was not quite the open, free-flowing game it is today, where there's more goals scored. But regardless, they still have that achievement to the name. What I was going to say is, unfortunately, his second half of his career tarnished his legacy for me. Unfortunately, he got left behind. He refused to evolve, which another manager on my list is the reason why he kept longevity for so long and success for so long. But regardless, he was stubborn. He started to spend poorly, whether it was his decision or it was decisions by those above him. All of those factors, accepting mediocrity, has then led to where Arsenal are currently, having to deal with all of that right now. So, unfortunately, that has tarnished his legacy for me, and that's why he's only number 4. Because if it hadn't have been for such a bad second half of his career at Arsenal, he'd be higher up in the top 5 for me.
Who's your number 3?
Number 3 is Pep Guardiola.
Pep.
And the reason why Pep Guardiola is number 3 for me is because...
Calm down, Buck.
I don't even. Like,
Pep Guardiola is another Jose Mourinho example. You can't.
Hang on, whose list is this? Yours or mine? That's right. Mute yourself. Right, Pep Guardiola. 2 historic seasons, and you can say he spent all of this money. Yes, he has. However, just because you spend all of that money doesn't guarantee you winning the titles, especially in the style of football that they played. The amount of goals that they scored, the amount of points that they accumulated, they were beating teams 4-5-0 regularly. Raheem Sterling under him has become a world-class player. In fact, no, not just world-class. He's become elite under Pep Guardiola. Kyle Walker's improved. He bought an Edison. People said they couldn't play out from the back. Why are you buying a keeper who can play with his feet? Well, what happened? He's won 2 titles back-to-back, 198 points, over 200 odd goals scored. It's incredible. The only downside to him is that he hasn't won the Champions League outside of Barcelona.
This could still happen.
It could still happen this season with Man City. And he's bringing through, okay, we can be a little bit critical of the way he's potentially not bought through some young English talent. But it looks like he's going to be bringing through Phil Foden. He's played a lot of games this season. Jadon Sancho obviously left to go to elsewhere. But at the end of the day, he's the modern day Arsene Wenger. He's revolutionised football again for modern day football. How many teams?
Is one of those players.
Put this way,
how many tappers that makes teams better. He makes teams better. That's what he does.
Yeah, how many teams are now trying to play out the back because Pep Guardiola did it with Barcelona, then Bayern, and now Man City? You see the 2 centre halves right next to the keeper from goal kicks. We'll go from there. Brighton do it, Norwich do it, Newcastle do it. So many different teams. Bournemouth, Arsenal, Leicester. Every team now pretty much are trying to copy the way Man City play, and that is because of Pep Guardiola. Okay,
fair enough. Who's your
all of that? And I agree with what he's achieved over
Absolutely
Barcelona.
historic
what he's achieved over at Bayern Munich. But again, we're talking Premier League.
There's no debate in that. It's historic.
Premier League. So Barcelona gets parked. Bayern Munich gets parked. It's irrelevant in the Premier League debate. my issue with Pep Guardiola is he's only ever gone into a club, barring Manchester City in the first season, that was already the dominant force in its league.
He's gone into every team and made them better, made them play better football, better standard. The guy's a genius.
The Man City team that he inherited, did he improve any single player in that first season and deliver him anything? No. That team couldn't play the way he works. He couldn't adapt his style of play to the players that he had available. His solution was, I'll go and spend £100 million on 2 fullbacks. I'll go and spend £60 million on a goalkeeper to play the way I want to go and play football. He could not adapt his game to the players that he had available.
No, those players were not good enough to the standard of what he requires. So therefore, you spent the money and made them better. Who's your number two?
Number two.
Nah, no, not buying it. Not buying it. It's not a fraud. It's not a fraud.
Number two. Number two, and he's falling only because Pep and Jurgen Klopp haven't been as round as long, but it's Jose Mourinho. And that is number two for me. And the reason why, again, there's a theme that I've got with all 5 of the managers that I've got here. They have been in charge of historic all-time great Premier League teams. In fact, not just Premier League teams, all-time great English football teams over the course of a couple of seasons. Mourinho, his first season in charge at Chelsea, 95 points. They only lost 1 game all season. They conceded only 15 goals that season. They played beautiful counter-attacking football. They were robust. They could play physical football if they wanted to. They could play quick, swift counter-attacking football if you wanted to. They had a spearhead up in front in Didier Drogba, who's one of my favourite all-time strikers. A midfield general phenomenon in Frank Lampard, the amount of goals he scored. They had a leader at the back in John Terry. They had an incredible goalkeeper in Peter Cech, and then they just filled around them. And they won the title the next season. He came back and then won the title with a worse Chelsea side than he had before. With it was mainly built on Eden Hazard and the creativity of Cesc Fabregas, kind of showing a little bit of versatility there. He's won the title 3 times. The only reason why he's falling is because I think he's kind of lost it in terms of, I think he's not really evolved. That's the problem. I think he's still he's still a bit of the one-trick pony of what he's always done, and teams and managers, because of the evolution of football, have wised up to it. So, unfortunately, I feel like he's not going to recapture his once great magic, which it was called the special one for a reason. But still, when you take his full body of work over the Premier League era, he is the second best manager to grace this Premier League.
And the best one is?
This was the easiest one out of all the top 5s we've done. It's Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, let's just use the numbers alone. 13 Premier League titles in 28 out of 28. Is that right? I think 13 out of 28. Yeah. So half basically of what has been available. I mean, and when he retired, it was 13 out of 20 or something like that. So the numbers speak for themselves. And the thing that kept him so successful, Gav alluded to it earlier, was that he evolved. He wasn't, and here's the thing as well. Yes, he was stubborn. Yes, he was authoritarian. Yes, it was basically his way or the highway with many of his players. David Beckham is the most glaring one that I can think of. However, he wasn't egotistical enough to know that he thought he knew everything. He trusted his staff, his backroom team, to be able to come up to him and say, look, Sir Alex, we need to do it this way. Football's going in this direction. We need to do it that way. He responded to the challenges first posed by Arsene Wenger, then Jose Mourinho, and he responded to them, and then he created incredible teams which then overcame those challenges. And yeah, there's nothing more to be said. I mean, not only is he the best manager in the Premier League, I think he's been the best manager of all time in football.
In my lifetime, 100%. 100%. Right. And before we come to you, Bucky, if you guys don't already know, this weekend we've got our watch along, and here's a little bit about it.
You could be watching it in the pub.
Or maybe you're watching it at home.
You can even watch it in Dubai.
You might be watching as a neutral after your boys just won the playoff final.
It doesn't matter where you're watching it, watch it with us.
Tottenham versus Arsenal, live watch along on Facebook and YouTube on Sunday the 12th of July at 4:15 p.m. That'll do, won't it?
Indeed, yes, it's our watch along on Sunday. So, we changed formation. Didn't realise that. Alex has come up top with me, and then Bucky's gone in the hole. But yeah, it's Arsenal versus it's Tottenham versus Arsenal. Live watch along on our channel on Sunday, both on Facebook and on YouTube. Right then, Bucky, you've said a lot.
I have, yeah.
So I'm
expecting
ready,
a lot.
boys.
We're
Get
expecting
ready.
a lot.
Well, Rob Curry's watching the show with us. But if you argue this, I won't listen again. And if Alex is at number one, I won't be watching it again. So I'm not being funny. I really hope your order does actually go to trend. If it doesn't, well, I don't know. Look, let's go for yours. Right. Who's your number 5?
So my number 5, I've actually come at this from a slightly different angle. So for number 5, I've actually come at it from a test of a real manager's skill set. It's not just whether or not they can do it consistently. It's, can you manage with a very limited budget? Can you overachieve with the squad that you got? And can you improve the players and the team as a whole? So my number 5 was Pochettino. What he did at Southampton was turn him into a really good side. It's underachieved. Buy back. Listen, we can't all be sitting here bigging up Jose Mourinho when he buys his check. This is a coach, and he actually coached well. What he
Serial bottler.
No.
That's all I need to say. Serial bottler.
Underbacked financially, overachieved with both squads that he had over at Spurs and at Southampton, handled everything flawlessly. The only thing missing from his repertoire is trophies.
Is a trophy?
Yeah,
no,
which is what you play football managers for.
But
football games for.
He has not got. He didn't have the squad. He didn't have the club. He didn't have the backing of a chairman to enable any of those wins. If he actually went somewhere half decent, he would do it.
To be fair, you know, I've got Moisey and some Allardyce in mind.
That's
similar situation.
He didn't have the backing. No. That's
Spurs did have backing, and they spent poorly. They spent poorly when they got rid of Gareth Bale. They used that money
Pre-Pochettino.
Yeah, but then they had the best starting, arguably the best starting 11 for a season and a half, and still didn't even go out and win an FA Cup or even a League Cup or just some form of trophy. Everyone's going to go back and be, we finished above Arsenal this season. We're champions. Nah, mate.
But look at the age of the squad. Look at the fact that he'd only just taken over a side. They fundamentally overachieved for what they should have done. And the squad was lacking. You look at Liverpool under Klopp, 2 seasons ago. You know, front 11, brilliant. What was coming up?
Do you know what the difference is between Klopp and Pochettino? Klopp was able to take that next step up.
Klopp had 186 million that came through to him. So it's not just about that. It's about the numbers game. You have to be able to invest. He hasn't invested. He never got the chance to invest. So he is number 5.
Here's the thing, right? If Pochettino was so great at making players better than what they were, why weren't Spurs able to sell players for the money that Liverpool did, which then allowed them to then get the money to buy those big players?
That's your Daniel Levy effect, where he thinks you're worth £20 million, but it was.
All I'm hearing is excuses.
That's the Levy effect.
Enoch out. Who's number 4?
So my number 4, I went for Big Sam.
Yeah, Big Sam. Yeah.
Big Sam. One of the first managers to bring in proper sports analysis, using data-driven facts to actually improve clubs and players. Often,
if Big Sam had a foreign name, he would be he would be lauded as one of the best managers ever. Sam Allardyce is from up north. You know, he's a bit tubby. No one cares about him.
tarnished with the whole thing over, oh, well, it's long ball. Oh, it's ugly to watch. No, he overachieved consistently with the teams that he had. He kept teams repeatedly up that should have gone down, that were dire. He took on teams like Sunderland, where actually the only good player they had was Jermaine Defoe, and somehow he kept them up. You know, he is so underrated for what he has achieved as a manager. Absolutely brilliant. Changed everything about. The Bolton team, you're talking about players like Djorkaeff that came over, JJ Okocha that came over. They didn't come over because they wanted to play in Bolton's fantastic stadium in their wonderful city of pies. No, they wanted to come and play for him and be part of that journey. Well done.
I'm pretty certain Bolton were probably playing pretty nice wages. They weren't coming to play for Sam Allardyce. I'm pretty certain JJ Okocha had probably never even heard of Sam Allardyce. Neither did Yura Djorkaeff. Right?
Doesn't matter.
Sam Allardyce is an egotistical, selfish manager, and it proved when he decided to try and take that bung, which thankfully got him rid from the England job. So 100% record, but David Nugent's the best striker then ever to play for England because he's got
one in one, mate. Who's your number 3?
Number 3, I've gone for the wheeler dealer, Harry Redknapp.
No, Buck.
Yes. Yes.
Goodness me.
And I'll tell you why.
Premier League history.
So let's put it this way. Buck likes his managers to leave his clubs in a mess and then they go and nearly get put out of business and languishing in the lower leagues.
We'll revisit this in a year's time and then Mourinho will be in his list.
No, they won't be. He's a fraud.
Because that's what he's done to make. Like he would have done it at Spurs. He would have done it along with these.
No, because he buys his way to success. Those other two have not bought their way to success. They had to find a way to run with their squads, improve them, coach them, use other available resources. They didn't have an endless pot of money to do anything.
You said he was a wheeler dealer, which implies that he's buying players to come in.
But they've not all been bought, have they? Look at what Harry delivered at Portsmouth. The vast majority of that
look where Portsmouth were left when they were after. They were left in financial ruin.
But that's not him releasing.
Yes, of course it's him.
That's the chairman.
Of course it's him.
No, chairman says you can have. And you go, all right, I'm going to go and have him. That's it. Look at Leeds. Leeds wasn't a downfall because of David O'Leary. The downfall was because of what the chairman was doing at the time.
Paying Steph Johnson 40 grand a week.
Exactly. It's not David O'Leary that's paying him.
Who's your number 2?
My number 2, I went for Arsene Wenger.
Oh, Closet Gooner. Look at him.
Right. Again, similar thing for me. First 10 years, I completely agree with you guys. First 10 years, he achieved fantastic things.
On the watch along on Sunday?
No. I wouldn't wear an Arsenal shirt
if
you donated 10 grand to charity.
It would be underneath. It would be underneath.
No. I'm not
what would Savas say? What would Savas say?
I'm not donating an Arsenal shirt unless you donate at least £1 million to charity. As soon as you prove that you can donate £1 million, I'll consider wearing an Arsenal shirt.
Come off it. No, let's talk real money. If I said £748.13 and I showed you the cash, you would do it then. No. Anyway, talk to me about Wenger.
First 10 years, as we say, completely changed the mentality, the coaching, the diets, all around the place within the club. Most of the Premier clubs have all followed suit after that. He's got trophies that proves everything to his name. The style of football that he brought into the club was fantastic to watch. Even if as a Spurs fan, we were constantly looking at it thinking, shit, the gap's bloody massive here. In the second 10 years of his tenure, yes, there were issues there. Yes, he let his ego go away. Yes, he had problems in terms of, the stadium was paid off. They did have money to burn and he just refused to go and do it. But actually, he was still achieving stuff. He just never really evolved past what he'd achieved in the first 10 years. So you cannot look past the fact that you spend 20 years at a club consistently delivering trophies one way, shape or another, even if they're not the trophies that club necessarily wants. And still managing to keep a consistent on finances. The only 2 blotches that I actually look back at Wenger and go, what did you do that for? And there's some dodgy purchases. But for me, it always comes down to the £350,000 a week that he dished out to Osborn.
Not his fault.
Well, hang on. If we're going to go by that logic, then was that him giving him the contract, or was that those above him?
No, I say above him. I say above him. They dished the contract out, but he probably spent too much time trying to persuade him. But
Who's your number one?
Number one, there can only be one number one. The greatest Premier League manager that we've ever seen, Grace. Probably will never
Martin
see
Jol.
anybody else.
Chris and Gross.
Alan Kirbishley.
I was going to
I'm
have
only
him on my list,
joking.
actually. Banter.
Sir Alex Ferguson.
I was going to say Andre Villas-Boas.
He set the bar, and no one is ever going to come close to it. No one is going to come close to it. You're not going to get the longevity again. You're not going to get the club loyalty again. You're not going to get the ability to adapt and change your squad and the way you played. As you quite rightly pointed out, that squad in the 90s was all about wingers and flair play and goals. That squad that last won the title when he brought over Van Persie was nothing like that whatsoever. That was a defensive team. That was literally a case of get the ball to Van Persie, let him score goals, and we'll win the title, keeping as many clean sheets as we possibly can, because we don't have the creativity in midfield. He brought through youngsters from the youth ranks consistently. He brought players from abroad that were extremely good. And whether you're looking at Ronaldo, where he brought him in very young and allowed him to mature and gave him time in the game, or whether you're looking at he was bringing in more established players like Yap Sam, the guy just did it. He took egos, he controlled them. He took youngsters, he nurtured them. He controlled that club from top to bottom and made them what they are now. The only weak point that you've always got as a United fan is when you've got someone that's got that much control over your club, that's done so much for your club and achieved so much, no one was ever going to come in and meet anywhere near those levels. Not a single manager alive. No way.
I'll get that completely. Clean sweep on 5 midfield for an addition for 2 up top. Sir Alex Ferguson, the number one manager of all time. Once again, underneath, you'll be able to see underneath all our screens, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at 2 up top football. Follow us on everything. On YouTube in particular, share and like our stuff. And if you want to see anything in particular that we yes, you subscribe. I always get confused between that and Facebook. Subscribe and like the stuff. And if you want to see us discuss any particular lists in the future, just pop us a message on any social media. And you can also find us on Google. Just literally put in 2 up top on Google and we come up first. But for myself and the boys, cheers and ta-ra.